Have you noticed that families today seem to be declining? Like they're just falling apart? Well, I have a guest today that is going to talk to us about restoring the nuclear family so that we're stronger and we're better together. Stay tuned. To the secret formula of femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Montero, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Nicole, your host and your guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence. And today we are going to talk about a topic that is dear to my heart, which is restoring and strengthening our families. And I have a special guest, a retired U.S. Army major with more than 21 years of distinguished service. He's also running for mayor. We're going to learn all about Mr. Clifton Johnson. They also call him Jay. And we're going to have this discussion about how to restore the family and how men and women can have their rightful place in relationships and in marriage and just benefit all of us. So, welcome to the show, Jay.
How you doing, Dr. Nicole? I really appreciate you allowing me to come on your show today, and I look forward to our great conversation we're going to have this morning.
Yes, I mean, it was crazy looking over your bio. I can't wait to tell people more about you. But before we get into that, I want to just dig a little bit into your story because you have a very rich and distinguished and diverse career. And like just even talking to you about you running for mayor, I was like, man, that's something else he does. But tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you from a distinguished military career into politics and even talking about families and relationships?
Well, it all starts from my own upbringing. I was fortunate to be raised with two amazing parents. The Lord decided it was time to take my father home. He had a bigger plan for him, but my
Mhm.
mom still is here and we're still doing so. I was fortunate enough that I had both my parents. My father was a very traditional man.
Mm.
We used to always call him old school because he's very, very old school. And he put that in his boys. And our family, he was in the military, he retired. And in our neighborhood, we had the village, more of the village type. And if we're with children, you're growing up, you're going to do things that kids do. However, the neighbors would catch you if you were skipping. The neighbors would literally catch you, take you to school, and call your parents. And I remember always telling people when we got caught, just don't tell my dad. Just don't tell my dad. you
Call
know,
my mom, but not my dad.
literally, I would say, call my mom. Call my mom. Don't tell my dad. And my mom, she was amazing because she, in a sense, my mom did the thing. She understood that, hey, dad's going to do certain things, mom's going to do certain things. And so she would protect us, not in the sense of, oh my God, you need to be protected from your father, but she knew, okay, certain things we did, all right, this is between mom and kid.
Mhm.
But if you do something's bad, hey, I got to tell your dad. And so that means you really messed up. you
Uh-huh.
know, and so, those are kind of values and morals that we kind of raised with. And then that went on into me, going to school, playing sports, going to college. And then, of course, the war broke out, which is the attack on the towers. And so I kind of left my civilian job that I had got out of college and I went into the military because my mom was really, really stressed because my younger brothers they went in the military and I didn't. And
Mm.
so I came in because my mom wanted her sons home. And so as the oldest boy, it's my responsibility. That's kind of the morals we raised with. I'm gonna go in so that I can start taking the burden off the family, and then my brothers will be able to come home, and I'll be the one that will be out there in the war, and my mom have to worry about me versus worrying about her younger boys. Because at the end of the day, that's just how we were raised. You're the oldest boy. It's your responsibility. The family falls on you. And so I did. I left my job, DC club life. I used to call that live a good life. Who took a big pay cut, enlisted in the military, and that's how the military career and the military story began. And as the country was going through what they were going through, those were some pretty bad times for the country because whoever thought that particular attack that we all dealt with back then, whoever in their wildest imagination would think that we would go through that. And that led me to where we're at today, to where I went in the military. And in military, I moved on to different levels of leadership. And you have all these different families that you have to deal with. And over 21 years of military service, I've saw and learned and dealt with whether it be different backgrounds, amazing people, amazing relationships, amazing friendships. But as a leader, I had to deal with a lot of families breaking up. And then as the leader, I had to, unfortunately, there's certain regulations that come along with families that the leader has to inflict upon the soldiers, whether it's a breakup, whether it's family, whether it's support. And that kind of led me to change my career path
Mm.
because I would take that stuff home to my own family because the decisions that I was forced to make, I didn't necessarily agree with them, but they were the particular laws that were in place or regulations. And it weighed hard on me. And now, as retired, I often tell people when I'm talking, whether it's on my show or whether it's on a political campaign, I wish I knew then what I know now.
Ooh.
Because those,
What are some of those things? Yes, like, what are some of the gems you wish you knew back then?
so as when you're young, you're just not, you get wiser as you get older.
Mhm.
Young, but in the military, a lot of you can be a 22-year-old with the power to make decisions on a 40 something year old's life as an officer. What you say can affect their lives. And there were times where I'm the younger captain, I'm in a command, and a soldier might have came in and maybe they were having some issues at home. And because of my own upbringing, a lot of time my decisions that were made, some of those beliefs that I had kind of weighed into my own decisions.
Mm.
As now I look back on it, and maybe I should have took another route because you don't know the whole story. Or maybe you haven't experienced what that particular individual is experiencing, so you don't know why they made the decisions that they made, and you're so young. And there was a lot of decisions that maybe because I wasn't maybe in that particular realm, so I would let maybe my advisors who were older than me, who have been in a particular situation longer, and I didn't want to be the one that's like going against the grain, they used to call it. I
Mhm.
would lean upon my senior enlisted advisors, which is our counterparts. They're enlisted. We're the officers. We all have an enlisted counterpart that's like our teammate. They're there to help mentor us. And a lot of times they make decisions. We'll kick this person out the army, or we're going to take their rank, or we're going to, put them on this. And I would just go along with what the lesson advisor said because I'm like, you know what, I trust your decision. And hey, they did this, and now you just changed somebody's life. When because in the military, if you get a bad misconduct
Yeah,
discharge, there's so much
that
that
affects your future. Uh-huh.
affects the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And eventually, like I said, a lot of the laws in regards to separation, divorce, a lot of these laws or regulations change to where now soldiers don't, if they do get a separation, once they get a legal document that says they're separated. What I didn't know back in the day is you can get married, you walk down, you fall in love with somebody. We're supposed to have what's called, this is controversial,
Uh-huh.
we're supposed to have what's called separation of church and state.
Mhm.
But it's not that way. When you get married, you can go down, you go to church every day, go to your pastor, hey, I'm going to get married. I love her. Pastor cannot marry you anymore without the consent of the state. You must go down to the courthouse, apply for the marriage license. And once you get all of that, take that to your church. Now you can do an actual ceremony to get married.
So that's required in the military that you have both.
No,
Whatever
that's
your religious.
that's required in America.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. But so what's the difference in the military or what?
So in America, in the military, let's say in America, let's say you decide you want to get divorced, non-military. Let's say you get
Mhm.
divorced, you want to get divorced. Depending on what state you're in, a divorce could take 4 or 5 years. Or certain states, divorce can take 45 days.
Mhm.
Depends on what state you're in. And also depends on, unfortunately, your
The other
financial,
party. Okay, yes, and the
your
other
financial,
party.
your financials, kids, all these other things, right?
Uh-huh.
But if you're not in the military, and this is past tense, things have changed, and let's say you get divorced or whatnot, and you're waiting for the divorce, let's say you're separated, you go out and you start dating or talking to other people, you can do that non-military without any punishment or
Uh-huh.
once you
'Cause you're
separate from
going through it's your personal business what you decide to do.
non-military.
Uh-huh.
If you're married, you're married. If you're going through divorce 2 3 years and you're the person that's in this either service member, your spouse doesn't have to deal with the military. The soldier is the one that has to do the military. So for me, I had my religion, my dad's root. I don't want to hear anything. If you're married, your spouse came in, my spouse is doing A, B, and C. Good luck when it comes across my desk. If it's you're done. Like, I
So
don't.
you would enforce rules which may get that service member kind of in some sort of trouble because they didn't follow the rules. Maybe they were seeing someone while quote still married.
Yes. And when it came to
Okay.
me, once
Yeah.
it came to my desk,
Mhm.
if the military said separate, and at the bottom of it said command discretion, no, you're separated. The
Uh-huh.
military says, hey, this particular is a punishment, and you can get jail for this, or you can get demoted for this. Once it comes across my desk, if it's this, good luck. And I had a sign, it's something that I didn't put up with adultery, I didn't put up with drugs, and I didn't put up PT failures. Those are my three non-negotiables. Like
What's the third one?
PT failures.
What is
It's
that?
physical training, because the military has
Oh, okay.
physical training standards that you must adhere to.
Okay.
And I was a person that when it comes to PT, it's something that's totally in your control. Meaning, if you don't have some medical condition,
You need to condition yourself.
you need to condition yourself, and we pay you to condition yourself. So if you fall out of that condition, you got to go.
So I
The
hear
military,
the three things you didn't play about relationships, about drugs, and about fitness.
yeah, didn't play. So if you got in trouble, you had to come to my office. Sir, don't waste your time.
Mhm.
Sign this. Have a nice day, because it was you knew before you whatever you did. I don't want to hear it. Fast forward 20 years later, or in regards to my military career, fast forward 14 years later,
Mhm.
eh, I could have did things a little bit differently.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
A
That is
little bit.
such growth and maturity, though, to be able to look at the stage of life you were in and maybe your lack of experience. It sounds like you came from a very strong and structured family. So you're like, hey, we need to follow the rules. But then over time, your experience and maybe even I'm imagining seeing people in the military who didn't come from such a family example and maybe they didn't even know how to navigate those things, that the rules. And it sounds like you would be a little bit more understanding later on in your career.
100%. And also, not only just understanding, just me, myself, learning and understanding that in the military, we are always going to different stations or locations, we call them. We have to you be at one particular location base, then you can get orders today, and you were in Texas today, then you get orders next week, you're going to be in Virginia, or you're
Mhm.
going to or just so now you're crossing state lines, and the laws are different in those particular states. But the military is set. We have one rule, and it don't matter where you're at in the planet, the
Mhm.
universe. This is the law. This is what it is. Uh,
Universal. Uh-huh.
yeah. But I met a guy when I was over in Turkey. He was like one of my guys. He was in the military, but he was not. He was foreign services, of course. But we're all still teammates. And he was Muslim, and his whole life and his whole world was different. And
Mhm.
I opened my eyes because I had never experienced anything like that. And when he was explaining to me, he had like four wives, and we had an argument, a drop down fallout about it because I was running my mouth, not being educated, not really. Here I am with my American views, and
Uh-huh.
I'm on him hard about God and just I'm going in, young, dumb, and just
Confident.
full of confidence and Mr. Know It All, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, who are you to put your beliefs on this man and have the audacity to tell him he's wrong because what he's doing goes against your beliefs? So now you're going to shame this man.
Mhm.
It's like, like I said, lack of growth back then, and then I had to
I
grow
love
up and
that
realize.
reflection, though.
Say what now?
I love that growth and reflection on your part. And now I'm Muslim, so you're being interviewed by a Muslim, and it's like full circle because, and it doesn't matter what the religion, like just being faced or confronted with something that's very different than
Mhm.
you and having the humility to look back and be like, and I'm sure he probably grew from you too
Yeah,
later.
we still communicate today. We're closest friends. I mean, he's in America now. He lives here
Uh-huh.
now, but and I know his wives, I know his family, I know his kids, but I have an understanding
Mhm.
of
Yes.
his faith versus my faith. I'm not going to really get into that, but
Yeah.
I
We
have
can
a out
get
of
into
respect.
it. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, in the sense of like, I'm very faith as far as a Christian,
Uh-huh.
Like this my faith. I've been that way since I was a child. When I got into college, I started learning different, faiths, and my family let me know, oh no, 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 this is what it is, right?
Uh-huh.
But I have, because I'm in the military, because I have so many different friends and been over different, cultures. I've always told my mom, and she don't necessarily agree. I said, "Mom, why am I Christian?" And she can't really answer the question. I said, "Is it because I was a Christian, or is it because our family has just like my children? They're Christians because that's what I am." I told mom, I said, "Mom, what if I decided that I wanted to go and be in the Hinduism?" And of course, she cut that conversation off really, really quickly,
Mm.
and it was like a shutdown conversation. But I learned that I didn't want to be that person that when I talk to somebody else about their faith, I just shut their faiths down. And that's
Mhm.
why I'm able to still be friends with people that have different faiths, because that has nothing to do with our relationship.
The core relationship,
Our
yeah.
core relationship, yeah, I can respect your values and respect your beliefs, but also still have my own.
Now,
Because
Jay, I mean, this is because I cannot wait to hear your views on the family, restoring the family, and just what your experiences have taught you about that. I want to tell the people, though, a little bit more about you. I mean, I know we kind of got deep, but Jay, or Clifton Johnson, is a retired U.S. Army major with 21 years of distinguished service. And he exemplifies dedication, leadership, and a commitment to excellence. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering, a master's degree in information technology management, and a doctoral executive certification in strategic leadership. I'm hearing leadership all over this. Throughout his military career, he served with honor and distinction, earning numerous accolades and commendations. He's as a member of the Signal Corps Regimental Association at Joint Base Langley. He contributed significantly to the advancement of military communications, cyber division innovation, and technology. This makes me want to get inside the brain of someone who's strategic, into information systems and family at the same time. So it's amazing. I do want to mention that Jay ran as a candidate for mayor, demonstrating his ongoing commitment to public service and community engagement. Wait, so are you running for mayor now, or you ran for mayor, or like where are you with that?
so it's twofold. So I ran for mayor, and then that particular election ran. I ended up finishing third in the election. Our current incumbent mayor, he was reelected, and after the mayoral election ended, I continued to still serve, still in the community. But you have to, once you get election, then everybody goes down, they sit back, you look over your campaign. Okay, what can we do better?
Mhm.
And let's get everything together, and let's plan for the next election. But also, once the new leaderships came in, we got together and they did internal election, and I was elected as the co-chair of the Transportation Committee, Food Joint Committee. So I ended up getting a job inside of the current administration. So I'm still
Mhm.
now serving, which is a term that I'm serving as the co-chair to that particular council. And what I will be doing is coming starting this November,
Mhm.
I will be right back into the campaign for the next election. The 2 years comes up, and then they run for another campaign. So I'll be starting this election period. So I'm working on that campaign as we speak to start
Okay,
pushing everything out. So I'm working on
that is powerful. And where is this?
this actually in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay, all right. It's funny because I was just at a community meeting in my municipality, and I felt like this is what it's about. Politics is local, and we can sit and debate about national policies, but if you don't get involved on the local level, then your voice isn't going to be heard. So I commend you for not just being involved, but like willing to lead and serve. And so I want to hear about your views, and I know my listeners want to hear about your views on the nuclear family and restoring the family. It sounds like you're married with kids. How and you grew up in a two-parent household, and I know we hear a lot of debates and discussions about that, but what are your views on the importance of family and specifically the importance of the nuclear family?
So I'm very passionate about I call it the restoration of the nuclear family because I honestly believe that the nuclear family is at the center of the success of our society as a community, as a nation. It's the nuclear family. And
Mhm.
what I mean by that is the nuclear family, when you really think about it, a two-parent household, a nuclear family being raised in views, not necessarily my views, your views. It's a family views that is based on raising children to be successful in society.
Mhm.
Now, whether we agree with what society is, no matter what country you've been in, I've been in multiple countries,
Mhm.
36,
Mhm.
36 different countries. Each country, they have what we call societal norms. So there's established set of norms that that particular society is ran on. So our nuclear families raise the children, which is our future, to how they can nest and be successful what's inside of those societal norms. Now you can do your thing, make it your way and be, your own person, unique, but you still are raising them to be able to be successful inside of that set of societal norms, which works to the benefit of that society. What I've noticed is, and what most people maybe we've noticed, or maybe some people do not want to admit, is that the nuclear family is, I think it's under attack, to be honest.
Mm.
I think it has completely been dissolved. And we can go back and use stats, or we can use history to where we can go back to the 90s, where for me, being a young black male, the black male was basically, because of the strict crime laws, was removed from the family. The black male
It's
was
taken
removed,
out.
was
Mhm.
taken out, put in jail. And then you had, if you go back to the 70s, the 80s, 90s, you had welfare programs that came out that the ladies that were getting able to get these programs, people literally came to the house and checked to make sure if males were caught in your home, then the program, you were put out of the program. So that incentivized women, especially at the time, people in my community, to remove that particular male and keep that male out the home. So now you had 20, 30 years of males, black, especially black males, being removed from the families. And then it forced our women to have to step up. Not saying that they weren't doing their thing. So I don't want people to
Mhm.
look at step up in a sense, but meaning
Mhm.
it made
Fill a
women
role that they didn't have to before.
feel an unnatural role.
Mhm.
And when I say unnatural, meaning that my experience, like I said, I've been around the block a couple of times. There are just certain things that men and women, regardless of what we see on TV or what we see, when you break it down and people are sitting down and they're being honest, and we're talking about biology, like what we are biologically do that we cannot control. Men are naturals. Like, I don't know you, I'm just meeting you.
Mhm.
If we were sitting somewhere and you walked up and you wanted to go inside, I won't even think twice about it. I'm going to automatically open the door for you. It just, I can't control it. It's
Mhm.
natural. It's what comes
Mhm.
natural. If somebody tried to harm you, I don't know you. There's no way I'm going to sit here. I don't even know you as a man, and someone tried to harm you. It is going to be instinct. I'm going to naturally protect you. You can be purple, pink, red, green.
Mm.
I'm going to, as a man, it is it's my instinct. I'm going to protect women and children. It comes natural.
Mhm.
The nuclear family is where those values, that's where they begin, that's where they end. And now the nuclear family is just completely dissolving within our society. If you look at it, look at what's happening to our culture, look at what's happening. And when I say culture, I'm talking about as a country as a whole.
Mhm.
The crime's going up. You look at our school systems, everything is starting to just, you see a rapid decline. And I trace that back to the removal of the father from the household, the destruction of the actual nuclear family. Because years ago, for you to be married and for you to be in a family and have the same parents, it was almost like a badge of honor.
Mhm.
When people meet me and I give the story about my mom, my dad, and you look at us and I'm like, we got the same mom, dad. People look at me like something's wrong with me. You got,
Like you have 2 horns, huh? Or whatever,
you
horns sticking out of your head.
you got the same mom, and dad. Like, it's
Mhm.
almost like something's wrong with me.
Mhm.
No, it's things have changed. So no one's getting on, the new families. But it's now what happened is it is hard to find that anymore.
Mhm.
But also the family has become to the point now to where I've had people I talk to and they don't even want to get married anymore.
That's what
They
I hear
don't
too.
they don't want to. Yeah.
Now let this is because you said a lot, and I don't think a lot of people, some may, but many may not know the things that you referenced in terms of the law and the institutional um pressures specifically on the Black family, where to get benefits, as you mentioned, welfare, food stamps, things like that, the safety net, the social safety net, as you described, the man could not be there. So that's really deep, like to think about the fact that institutions were saying your men cannot be there. And when you mentioned that, it's almost like it's so rare now. I was talking to a parent at my kid's school, and she was telling me about her oldest daughter at high school when she transitioned to high school, because our kids go to a really small school, tight knit community. She transitioned into high school, and her daughter was teased, get this, for coming from a two-parent household. And her daughter was made to feel like, well, you don't understand the struggle, or just ostracized. And I thought that was really strange. I was flabbergasted. But it brings me back to what you just said, which is now the whole culture shift is that it's almost like it's a bad thing to get married, to raise kids, to have like that, as you say, that nuclear family.
And I agree. And when you're saying that she's getting teased, right? What's starting to happen is people envy what they do not have, and hurt people, right? So when you meet a person who they have what you think you should have, now you know you're reacting certain ways, right? I don't watch TV anymore. I tried the last 2 weeks and I'm just over it because
Mhm.
there's so much propaganda and there's just so much on TV that I didn't notice before, but like I can take it all the way back to the Cosby Show, which we all love. The Cosby Show, we all love. Different World.
Mm.
You can go back to even Marge. I think she's on the
The
Simpsons,
Simpson is the Simpsons, right?
the
She
Simpsons or whatever.
Mhm.
Simpsons. So sometimes when there's an issue, whether it be societal, we try to fix what we consider was a wrong. Sometimes we go too far right, or maybe we stay left. Meaning that if so, males, right? If you want to go from me from my particular religious belief,
Mhm.
males lead. Men are the head of household. We're responsible. Our job is to provide and protect. We're the leaders of the family. Most fathers are we're not like the mothers, meaning mothers are more nurturing. Now people argue that, but if we're going off of just old norms, societal norms,
Mhm.
the fathers are normally the disciplinary ones. The mothers are normally the more of the nurturing ones.
Mhm.
So you look at dad, dad's going to establish law, discipline. This is what it is. This is right and wrong. Mama's going to establish that she's going to care for you. She'll make sure you're fed. She's going to love you. She's going to give you all that emotional, just that good, warm feeling, right? Dad's love and they're nurturing too, but it's different. It's a different way. And that is what has been removed from the family. And
Mm.
now, 20 years, 40 years later, you have now men that are grown that never had a father in their life. You now have women that are grown that are now having children who didn't have a father, and they're having children with a male who did not have a father. So now the
So it's
males
like the third generation of no father.
of no fathers. And so now what happens is you can get into it like your daughter who was having someone talk to her or necessarily basically bully her in a sense, right? That particular child was doing that. I'm not saying that I'm not going to go out here and say that child didn't have a father, right? But when I was going to school, showing my age here, 30 years ago, there might have been a male figure in the school, whether it was the basketball coach, the football coach, that might have caught her in the hallway saying that and would pull her aside and be like, hey, stop. That's wrong. Just put it into it because that particular male will be in a sense putting discipline into that child. You want to save your job, you stop a kid and say something to a kid now in school and it's going to get on the news
Mhm. Mhm.
because
You'll be
you
villain.
do
Uh-huh.
You be villainized. Yeah, there's no more accountability in our society now. And that's coming from the removal of the nuclear family, the male as the leader in the home. And now we see this new move towards basically, I don't want to say equality because that word starts a conversation that we'll still be having this time next year. But I mean, in a sense of, I believe men and women are equal, but I believe there is a distinct difference in roles between men and women, meaning that you can do this. We all do the same things. We have the equality we can do. Like if I get a job, you get a job. We all should have equal rights. I totally believe in that.
Mhm.
However, what is happening is when you look into how things have changed with the removal of men from the household, then there is a difference in between men from the time a man is born. Because I have children, I love
Mhm.
my baby to death, and I'm telling you, when I had my baby girl, my life changed. That baby, when she opened her eyes and when she cried, my whole soul melted.
You hear
My
men say that too. Yes.
good. And to this day, if somebody wants something from daddy, when my baby, when my baby come in there and she bat her eyes, good luck. Like what I want to tell her no, it's not. I don't even waste my. It's not going to happen.
Uh-huh.
She's going to win. And so what happens is the male normally is in the household and he's providing that leadership to his family, to his spouse, to his children, and he's also teaching them accountability. When my son was born, no matter what he does, from the day he gets it. I correct him. I make sure that he knows wrong. But I'm be honest with my daughter, she gets more leeway
Hmm.
than the boys do. You
Now,
see,
and do you feel like women do the opposite, where they may kind of give that mother's nurturance to their sons? Because you heard the saying, sometimes families raise their daughters and coddle their sons. And I'm wondering if you think women do the opposite, like their sons have them wrapped around their fingers.
I don't want to speak on women. I'm just going to say that there's a whole saying, a woman can't raise a man to be a man.
Hmm.
And that starts an argument that I stay away from, right? Meaning that there are certain things that I do for my daughter that I understand that she needs her. There's certain things that her mother is just better at doing, especially at the age that she's at now. She's at an age now to where she's going through her passage as a woman and all of that, those things. And so some of those issues and concerns that she goes through, her mother is better equipped to kind of go through that with her. But me as a father, my role is I'm still going to be there for my daughter,
Hmm.
but I'm still going to hold her accountable. Let her know this is how the world works. I'm not
Hmm.
going to call at you. This is at the end of the day, this is the world. Because at the end of the day, I'm a dad. I'm in protection mode. Versus her mother is going to be. She's very great at. I don't want to say making excuses because sometimes we kind of butt heads behind that, but
Moms
making
just
excuses.
have that spot where, like, you can't look, you're not gonna touch my baby.
There you
That's
go.
all
And dad,
yeah.
and dad is like, no, they'll touch her, and they'll do this.
Uh-huh.
So I agree with you to where when you're saying yes, but what I'm noticing is when you remove the family, like I just told you that dynamic where I'm dad, I'm going to tell my daughter certain things, but then
Mhm.
she's also going to go to her mother and she's going to get that. So now you have two worlds that are together to help balance out the child. So
Mhm.
now she can see from her dad, who's going to the leader, who's going to give her this is what it is. Then you got mom who is going to make sure that, like you said, you're going to coddle her, which is needed. You're going to give her that emotional
Mhm.
support, maybe spiritual support. You're going to give that to her. So now she has two parents. And when she comes out of that situation, she feels that no matter what happens to her, she has her family behind her back. So now she's not mad, upset, or what I consider starting to develop what's called childhood traumas,
Mhm.
which we know they manifest themselves later in adulthood. And ooh,
Mhm.
good luck.
Chips, yeah.
Yeah, good luck. And so that's what I'm saying. That's why I go back to the importance of nuclear family because there are going to be certain situations that me as a male, yeah, I can handle it from a man's perspective or from a leadership perspective or from a, hey, I'm being a protector or provider. But there's certain things that I literally will call the spouse and be like, hey, babe, you know, the baby's going through this, and I need you to do this, and this. And then she's going to say yes, or she might do what she's amazing at. I'm blessed. Regardless of relationship issues, y'all are partners first, friends
Mhm.
first. She's going to say, hey, babe, sometimes, and she gets on me about this, sometimes you need to listen. Sometimes when they come to you, they don't want the answer.
Mhm.
They just want to vent. But when you come to dad, no, babe, that's what you're for. When they come to dad, I'm gonna tell them what the freak it is. And this
Mm,
is what we do. I'm not gonna coddle them
uh,
because I'm not gonna be sitting up here, especially with my son, his tall self, long dreads, and someone misunderstand what he said, and then someone done took my son from me, and now
mm.
I'm sitting back. No, that's a dad. No, my job is to. I'm always in protection mode. Versus, and I take that role as a man. I'm never allowed to turn off. I work hard. I stress. I go through this sort of my family. If my wife today she's tired and she don't want to work or she don't want to do anything, you don't have to. You want to lay home. You don't want to go to work. You want to chill. You don't want a mom today. It's my job. I got you. I don't, as a man, and I believe in this. I don't get that right. It's
Now, this is you are saying something that I hear a lot of women saying that they want a protector, provider man. And this is what you're describing. But I hear you saying that, particularly in the Black community, the the pathway, like, this usually happens because it's through generations. You do what you saw, what was modeled. And what you're saying is this was broken down, particularly in the Black community in America. So how does a person who came from a home where they didn't have both parents, or they didn't have a strong male figure in particular, let's say a woman who grew up without a strong male figure, but she wants to be in a healthy relationship and create a family within that structure, but she has no clue as to how to do it. What is your view or advice on how she goes about that?
So that's where me and you come in at, or these different communities, or the we used to like to call the village. And when I speak on it, yes, me being from my particular community of the Black community, I speak on it also from it's also happening not so prevalent in a larger scale, but it's just
Mhm.
when I say American society, because our culture as we have what I call the Black culture, which I'm part of.
Mhm.
We I don't subscribe to a lot of the you know I believe in our country is our country because I fought for it, right? And then
Mhm.
we have to call American culture. So
Mhm.
I always include us all together because I've been military, and when bullets are flying, I'm telling you, like I do not care that the guy next to me is Hispanic or he's white or he's
Mhm.
whatever. We are Americans, and there's a guy across the way who was from another country and trying to harm us, and we're in harmony together to get to an initiative to win for America, so America can stay free. And so the families, what we're saying, being broken families, yes, it is really relevant. If you look at the statistical numbers, it's very higher in the Black community. And for how if a particular young girl or the woman is going through that and she's experiencing that she didn't have that father figure, then what happens is her the mother is in her life. Let's say you got a mom, a single family home, and it's the mom. The mother is also she's raising her child. And she also understands that I'm raising my child without a father, right? And so sometimes they do have whether it be a uncle or somebody that's that male figure in that particular child's life. We need to get to come to the table. We can have an honest conversation and start doing training to change mindset. Like I say up there, you my thing. It says mindset is everything, right? Mindset is everything. I'm never gonna say, and this is something that honestly drives me crazy. You ever heard the statement, "I'm an independent woman"?
They even have a song, INDEPEN.
Yep.
Spells independent woman.
Have you ever heard a man say, "I'm an independent man"?
Mm,
Independent of what is the question that I ask, and it goes back to mindset. So, you as a woman, when you hear the statement, "I'm an independent woman," and we're talking about mindset, is addressing the question that you just answered. What
yeah.
does independent woman mean to you? Independent of what, or independent of whom?
Mhm. Nobody can tell me anything.
But what does they mean when they say independent? Independent of what or independent of whom is the question that I always ask.
You're asking, why do you even need to say that?
It's almost like I tell people, like when I'm out there and I'm talking and I'm being a mentor to, I call it the future leaders of tomorrow,
Mm,
right? One thing I always let them know: if you got to tell somebody that you're the boss or you're the leader,
You're
and
not. Uh,
you're not leading our boss. You
that's
saying?
deep. Uh-huh.
You know, I'm never gonna tell somebody that I'm independent. I'm an independent man. Because once I gotta tell someone I'm an independent man, I've given up my manhood because that's showing a sign of weakness. Oh, I'm an independent man. Well, something inside of me is telling me that I'm not independent because I want to tell you that I'm independent.
Mm-hmm.
So for the lady that you were speaking of, that they're coming, I'm more in the sense of how you get to that is training mindset, training the mindset of we as a people are not put here on earth to be alone. We are organisms, we are creatures, we are mammals, we are human beings that they've done too many studies and they're heinous studies when a baby is born and they literally like take them and put them like I've researched these things and I was like blown away with like who would
Or
do this.
even the blank face experiment when a
Yes.
mother is just stone face, the baby freaks out.
Freaks out. There's other studies where they've done even that to where they have some child that do this child for like I think it was like 4 or 5 months, give it no human interaction at all, the baby dies. And another one that gets to normal and the baby lives.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all this signs. So in a sense, we need each other. So when I'm talking about restoring nuclear family, when I give some of my classes and I'm speaking, I start to do almost like training sessions of mindsets to first of all remove the barrier between man and woman because our society over the last couple of years, 20, 30 years, with certain ideologies is going around in our society. And I don't really want to get into that word, but there's some to where men and women are now placed against each other, almost like we're fighting against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, we're not. Like we have to come together and we come together to build a better society. If we are against each other, almost as opposing each other, then that young lady who does not have that male in her life and only has, whether it be a mother or however her life's been raised, now she is not set up with the tools that she needs to be successful as an adult. Because now she goes into adult and she's going to do, she or he,
Mm-hmm.
is going to do what's called start a what I call a generational curse to where your daddy was in jail. So now you're being raised. Now you're going to be in jail, and then you're going to go out here and you're going to father a kid. And now that child is going to do the same. And now the nuclear family is just it's completely dwindling
Mm-hmm.
next generation. And so I think it's more of a training of a mindset to get to a point to an understanding of I might not have had a father in my life, but maybe the mother understood that there's no father, or vice versa. And then you put those particular rules in place, or you gave them those touch points to where in life, hey, baby girl, this is what you're going to need to be successful. And I think that will help to get us back to that sense of, hey, nuclear family, marriage, kids in wedlock. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. That's important
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because we're
And
responsible, you know?
well, it is so interesting because you can see there's been a shift to where saying something like marry before you carry could be a controversial statement. And just from what when I hear you talking, I don't hear any judgment at all. Like this is not about a judgment towards people who have a certain family structure or didn't grow up with this or that. But it's looking at what happens when the majority of the society doesn't have a like to me the nuclear family represents stability. And I was looking at this video where it showed different communities and the um the average salary, household income or salary or wealth for a particular group of people, and it correlated it to their marriage rates. And the lower the marriage rate for that particular community or group, the lower their net worth as a family. And I was like, wow, this is deep, right? Because it speaks to the stability and just the numbers of if there's one person carrying a family, just even on a financial level, that's going to be a lot of stress and strain. And then I'm thinking about what you said just in terms of discipline and parenting and handling day to day things. And if you are doing it without help. Now, we all know that just because it's a single person household, it doesn't mean you're not having help. But I think there's something about having two consistent people who are equally invested in raising this kid or these kids that is so powerful.
No, I agree with you. And there's another part that a lot of people leave out, and we get into the. I'm just gonna say it. There's inequality in the in parenting. What do you call it? Family court. There's a lot of inequality in the family court system, and you know that's more getting in political realm.
Mm.
But there are a couple of things in the family court system that need to be addressed. But when you're doing what we call non-nuclear family, and hey, I can raise this kid on my own, and just all the different things when you're watching videos and you see different people speaking on different views. And like I said, it's America, so I will never ever trample. I mean, 21 years of fighting for people to have the right. So you burn a flag as American, that's your right. As a veteran, yeah, it pushes buttons. But I fought for that right for you to do that. So I have to respect that.
Mm.
But when you're raising these children, a lot of times we're the parents. The children did not ask to be here. We are the ones that brought them here because we made a decision to have that child. And I understand the ultimate decision lies with the woman because it's my body, my choice. So I 100% understand that. But at the end of the day, that child's 50% the male, 50% the woman. Once that child is born, the biggest piece that I think is forgotten is we as the adults get so caught up in our own life and our own feelings that we forget that's a human being that can think and feel just the same way you can. So when you're out here and it's just one parent, you understand that child wants, they're attached. They want that other parent. It's part of their nature. They want that love from their parent.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take it from them or it's removed from them, it has an emotional effect on that particular child. So now that child is having to go through life, and they might not gonna say it because they're children, but it affects them, and they carry that pain, and eventually it could turn into a trauma, a childhood trauma that they carry into their adulthood. And now they're adult and they're making life decisions based on the trauma that we, the adults, we, the parents, we inflicted that on those children. Because I'm just going to say how I feel, because we failed
Mm.
as, as parents because we decided to make a decision. So where comes the whether it be discipline or whether it be, hey, this is your duty as a parent. You decide to have this kid. Now it's your duty to that child, not yourself, because you made a decision to bring this child into this world. Now it's your duty to do right by that child. But sometimes what happens is, I don't like that. It's not how I feel. It's not what I want. Well, you should have made a decision.
Mm.
Now you have a duty to make sure this child has what they need to be successful, nuclear family, in their adulthood life. Now I get it. Now we're not going to be forced people to get married. Those days are over. All of the arranged marriages, and you know how back in the day you get married and
That's it.
that's it. Especially in Christianity, the family don't want to be out there, and they're going to get shamed because you just got a letter because you had a child out of wedlock.
Mm-hmm.
Those days have changed, so you can't force people to do that anymore. And like I said, I believe in freedom, but I'm not going to sit back here and just give you a pass on you skipping out of your duty or you being held accountable for a decision that you made. So, and that's
Yeah,
just
that's you said a word, and even like thinking from the Islamic perspective, there's a view that marriage is half of the religion, meaning like being getting married is an important part of your religious duty. Just speaking back to that part of being interdependent. But when you said that we seek to know who we are and where we came from, and I grew up, my parents broke up when I was about 5, but I always had a close relationship with my dad, and it was one big family. And even my mom was still very close with her former mother-in-law and her brother-in-law. Like it didn't separate me at all from either side of my family. But even with that, even and I was always at my dad's house every weekend and his mom and all that stuff. But even with that, which I would call like, a best case scenario, it's still not the same. And it made me want to ensure that I had a stable two-parent family structure for my kids. And so I'm just imagining like when you don't know your other parent, what hole that leaves. Because even though I was close with and knew, like it's not the same when you're not in the same house. And even having kids go to this house and that house, and it becomes a lot, right? It's a lot for a child to navigate. So you're right. It is something that I think a lot of times we don't realize we're putting on the kids based on our own wants and needs. And they don't say anything because, it's their norm, but later on they'll recognize what the gaps were.
I totally agree. I totally agree, and that's why I'm so passionate about the nuclear family because it goes beyond just whether it be a mother and a father. It's like when we're looking at just like at the end of the day, the Lord's gonna call us home, and our legacy, meaning our children, they're gonna continue, and we have to shape the world. We have to, otherwise, what we do, our children are going to have to be the ones that are going to be living that as we pass. And that's why I'm so passionate about it because it's like we see the numbers, we see the statistics, we see the crime, we see what is going on, and we can trace it back to, hey, just looking at schools, just look at how I am up here right now, and I've worked so hard to get to where I'm at. And like my particular kids, they live way different life than I lived when I was growing up. But however, when I still see what's going on in the world, I still see what's going on in society with the children, and when I'm out here coaching, and these children, it's not fair because they're kids. There's nothing they can do about it. But we as the parents, we're in control, and it's like we need to step back and just look and say, hey, what are we doing as adults that are having an effect on our children,
Mhm.
having an effect on this society? And I think like we need to look at it and say, hey, you know, things that back in the day that we used to shame people for, right? Now, if you say something about that, it's almost like times have changed now. So if I'm sitting here and I'm fighting for marriage, I might hear something like, well, I don't have to get married, or, you know, it's just so many, like, it's a negative thing
You
that's going
might
on.
get canceled.
Yes, you might get canceled. And I'm like, I'm like, it should be the opposite, out here, and I'm a single this, I'm this, like all the praise that we get for doing things that directly have an effect on nuclear family. It's almost like you get a trophy for that now.
Mhm.
And if you're out here trying to fight for your family, it's almost like you get shunned.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, because it's not the end thing. It's not it's a result, in my opinion, of generations of trauma. And so we then embrace the thing that was hurtful for us. And we do it as humans sometimes, like the thing that hurt us because we can't change it, we embrace it. So
Mhm.
it's like now we embrace all the traumas and the behaviors that aren't so healthy. But I talk a lot to women about femininity and embracing the soft life. And again, we don't have to be the same to be equal. So I believe women are different from men and we have different needs. And I'm curious about your views because you mentioned, like, okay, you could tell your wife, look, babe, if you want to rest, or you don't want to do all that, I'm here to take care of you. And I always ask men this, right? Because I hear a lot of men say they want to do that. Not all of them step up and do it. What are the things that, in your opinion or your experience, help to draw that provider protection instinct out from you, right? Like, what are the things that a woman does, like that your wife or whatever, it doesn't have to be that personal. You can even talk about what you observe, but like, what are the things that really puts a man into protector provider mode?
So, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm going to quote you, and I'm going to put this clip on the show later, just so you know, right?
Okay.
So, I love mindset. So, to stay with what you just said, you notice how you just asked me what are the things that put me in that mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a difference between men and women. That's a feeling based thing that you just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can do that's going to put me in a provider. My dad put that in me from a child. It is in my nature. It comes to me naturally. You if you get mad, and like I said, I'm married. So if I do something or upset my particular spouse or whatever like that, get upset or do something that triggers a negative response emotionally from her, right? that's going to affect certain things, whether it be bedroom or blah blah, certain things,
Mhm,
withholding, all these different things, whatever,
mhm.
right? Which we men we know these things happen, right? All right. No matter what you do to me, mortgage, bills, protect. That's never gonna stop. I can
So
be
it's not
upset
a
with
tit
you.
for tat. It's not of
It's-
like we argue, so
yeah, that's not up for discussion. Like
mhm,
I'm a man, and and some people that I talk to, they disagree with some of the things I say, and I'm okay with that. And
mhm.
I will get on a man
Who,
just
men or women?
men and women.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, there's a new society. Like even me, like I said, when I was in the military, I have guys come to my office and they're arguing about their spouse didn't pay 50%, and I close the door. Close the door. You literally just came in here and you arguing me because your wife didn't pay 50%. Go do 2 miles and come back and talk to me when you man the F word up, basically, right?
Mhm,
Now, the army's changed. You can't say that anymore. But 10 years ago, you could say that, right? Me, I, I'm hard on men and I'm honest about it, right? I'm never going to give a man any type of slack when it comes to protect and provide.
mhm,
You do not marry a woman if you cannot provide for her, if you cannot protect her. You get your butt out there and you get your value up. You get your economic value up. If you cannot provide for a family, you do not need to get married. You do not need to be out here having children. As a man, it is your job. Now, not everybody agrees with me, but
mhm.
I am a man's job is to protect and provide for his family. That's what it is. Your woman or your wife or whatever terminology that doesn't offend people, because that's our world is to the point now that we're just so sensitive about everything that you say. As a man, there's certain things as a man that this is our life, whether it's right or wrong, this is what it is. For me, when dad raised me, you take care of family, son. That's your job. And your wife, you get married, she wants to work, cool. I tell men, teach men, especially in my classes, real estate, and trying to get their value up. You should have yourself to a point where your wife, if she does choose to work, she works for you.
Mhm.
Why are you gonna have because a woman does not need to be out here with two leaders. So financially, you get your financial stuff up and you work, get yourself to a point to where you're bringing in an income for the family. You and your wife, y'all have a business because a marriage is a business, even though religious it's a union. But in our particular society, when you get married, technically you just enter into a 50-50 business.
Contract. Mhm.
50-50 business that if you divorce, good luck. Okay, good luck. So in a sense, what I'm saying is I believe and I tell men that based on how we are, we're not going to have to address it what you say. We don't get into a mood to want to protect and want to provide. When a man decides that he wants to get on a knee and say, "Hey, I want to marry you," now he's asking for your hand in marriage. He's asking to replace your father as your protector or your provider. He is now taking that oath and he's coming. He's giving that handshake and having that conversation with her father. And he's talking to her. He's now bringing her into his home, and it's now his job and his responsibility to care for her.
Stay tuned as I continue my discussion with Jay. It will be on part 2 of this episode. See you on the other side.